Hey guys, so colours. Today we're looking at red. Lovely. I sound like Sesame Street really. Anyhow, so for this particular project I'm going to do a bit of colour mixing. I've got the colours printed off here. It's not the best representation and that's just down to the printer, that's not a problem. But it gives me an idea of where I'm heading with colour mixing. So I have some colours out here that are not spot on but they're similar. And I will be doing a bit of mixing with them, and you'll see sort of where I head with it. I'll be using this as a bit of a test palette. So I've got a very similar green here. You can see that actually it is quite a similar one. This particular one, much lighter, much brighter green, doesn't really match in, but if I mix the two together I'll be somewhere in the middle of that. So if I take a little bit of that, a little splash of that, and you just mix until you've got the colour you want. There we go. Whereas you can see that is a little bit in the middle there. And stuff like this will help you practice your colour mixing quite effectively, where you don't have the exact paints. So this particular one here is a peachy colour. And what I've got out here is two sort of pale cream colours, and what I want to use is a little bit of one and a little bit of the other. Go and mix them together, because one's a little bit too light in tint, one's a little bit too dull in tint. And then I want to go to this particular colour here, which is a slightly orangey one, so really small amount there. Now just mix it in. I could really do with a bit of orange in there, just to bring it closer to this, because that's a bit more pinky, and to tone that down, what have we got? Yellow, so through to orange. So a green will help tone it down a little bit potentially, but not to the kind of colour I want. So if I put it in here, you can see it here, it turns it more purpley. So it's just sort of pulling that in. So that could do with a bit of yellowy orange in there, which I haven't got out, and I'm not going to go back for. I am going to just work with what I've got. So it's a little bit on the pink side, but it'll be okay. I can add some more of this to it, just to pull it back again. See where that takes it. Now you've got a much closer colour. So yeah, it is just playing around until you get the colours you need. Again, here I've got quite a bright red, and if I come in here, this is just a neutral red. That's quite a similar colour. Even next to it, it is similar. We move down again. This one is looking a bit more coral. I think they're actually the other way around on the thing. Yeah, so if you're looking at it on the screen, this one's a bit more coral, this one's a bit more red, so they're almost the other way around. However, I'm just working with it on here so that I can show you one of the ways you can do this. Okay, again, got a nice match there, and if I mix between these reds, I'll be somewhere in these shades quite comfortably. Now finally, this is sort of a burnt red colour. Now I've got this particular one which is called Nickel Azo Gold, which as you can see is far too light for that. However, if I start to add it in to some of the reds, I should start to tone it down a bit. Now this is a slightly darker red I've got here. I'm just going to mix that down, just because it's quite a heavy body, bring it over here where I've got a bit of space and pop some of that in. And that's just going to bring it down. I'm not going to be exact, because really it needs a much darker colour for it, but it's going to help pull that down. No wonder. I'm just going to play around with it. Oh, that's good. So I've popped a bit of green in there as well. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks quite good. That doesn't look too far off. So yeah, just play around with the colours and see what you've got, and having a strip like this to compare it to will help, because you'll be able to see whether you need to be lighter, darker, whether it's too orange or too red or too blue, you'll be able to see what sort of things you need, and only through practicing will that come to you. So that's given me the good basis of colours I want. Now, the picture of it was in a watermelon. I don't really want to deal with watermelon. I'm quite on roses at the minute. I'm on flowers very much so. So I'm going to have a play around just on this and see what comes out of it and take it from there. Now, the idea of this is actually roses, and you'll see why I'm doing this sort of weird shape as well. It's not a circle, it's a circle with bits added to it, so that you've got some petal shape. So the way I find easiest to do it is to start off with a circle and then just add to the edges so that they're not neat, because roses aren't really neat and pretty, believe it or not. So we'll pop one up here. This is a small one. I'll pop another one down here. So I've gone in with a middle rate colour, because I don't see that there's any need. Let's make that a bit bigger. Okay. I've gone on with a middle colour rather than any of the dark ones or any of the light ones, just because that way I can give myself a base coat and I can work from there. If I go in darker, it's very hard to lighten up, but going in with a mid-range will give you something quite definite to work with. So I'm just going to dry off that brush a little bit, and I'm going to start by going a bit lighter. So I've mixed up some of this, and I'll just mix up what I need. I know what I used. You might find it's easier to just sort of write down what you've used, but that is up to you. So roses have a kind of swirl effect where they're not, you don't tend to draw a petal, you tend to draw a shape, and it's like a curve coming round. So I'm just going to add a kind of highlight to it to bring that out, and that's why I'm using the lighter colour. And they're not symmetrical. You can grab a photo if you want, use it for reference, or if you've got a photo in your inspirations that you'd like to use, grab it out. So I'm just going to do that with each of these, and then I'm going to do something very similar with some of the darker shades, and I'm just building up the layers, making it into something that is rose-like. I'm not trying to draw or paint an exact replica of a rose. What I am creating is something that is a similarity. What's the word I want? It's an expression rather than anything else. And that's what art is. Art is an expression rather than necessarily an exact lifelike drawing. You can do lifelike drawing, and if you can, fantastic. But it doesn't have to be, and I'll be honest, I can't. So it doesn't mean I'm not creative, doesn't mean I'm not artistic. Let's come in here a bit. You can see the shape starting to take effect. There's nothing, I'm using quite a big brush, so I don't have as much control as I might with a smaller brush, and for me that's good because it allows a bit more explanation, exploration even, and a little less finesse. It gives me more room to try ideas and just play around than I might have had without it. So it helps you pull yourself away from this perfectionist streak. And you will work with what you've got. So There we go. And then we'll just start getting a bit darker. I'm not trying to fill in the gaps here, I'm just playing around with it. Letting some of the colour show through, some of the colour fade back. You know, it's not a science and there's no exact route through. You have to work that one out and you have to find what works for you. So if you're sitting there going, oh, that looks childish, that looks awful, you need to remember that, one, I'm playing. I'm not trying to create something that is spectacular, that is a perfect representation. I'm trying to create something that gives the illusion of. So if you look at it, you'll know what it is. So I've just added a bit of different colour in there. I've just mixed up another shade. All I've done is use the leftover paint that I had from the darker red, and I'm going in there with a slightly lighter red. Okay. So that's about as much definition as I want to give them as flowers, because, you know, it's short projects, it's short playtime. Right, and then we go on to a couple more bits. Okay. Get that dried a bit. I'm going to mix up some more that's similar to this, okay, but not there because the orange that was underneath it is starting to peel away. So I used a little bit of this brown, this Nicolazzo gold, and a bit of this red to create the base colour that I wanted. And then I went in with a smidge of this green, so I'm going to pull a little bit off and then just mix it in. Because you can add, but you can't take away. And there we go. And that works nicely for what I want. So the next thing I'm going to do is add some stems. Now this is quite a transparent colour, which isn't exactly what I want, but it'll work for this. And just keep mixing up as you need. If you want to cover a larger area and you know you're going to want a larger area, then by all means mix up more and don't be afraid of that. But for me, I just find it easier to mix up a little bit at a time and work from there. Now again, because I'm not using a fine brush, I am literally just giving a kind of stem to it. It's not perfect, it's not an exact stem, it is just intended to give that illusion of stemness. Okay. I will also come in and just add a couple of darker splashes in these, just to help give a bit of definition and a bit of shade to them. And don't be afraid to pop your fingers in and start messing around as well, because that is always good. Okay. That's that. Now, I also want to do some leaves here, and that's easy. I am just going to go in with the greens. And leaf shape isn't difficult, really straightforward. But You don't have to make them perfect, they don't have to be jagged. You just need a shape. And that's all this is for, is a bit of inspiration, a bit of a starting point, and a bit of a play with colour and yeah, how things interact, and trying things, because if you don't try them you're not going to know how it works. I am using a much thicker paintbrush than I might normally, and that's partly to challenge myself, but also to see how it works, to see what this paintbrush is going to do, if anything. I mean, it may not do a thing to help me, but I might find some nice shapes that I didn't know really existed. I'm going to add, there we are, bring that up here, and I'm going to add a little bit of the darker green to that, just to pull it down, just a small amount, don't need lots. It's just so there's a bit of shade in here, rather than just being one colour green. Okay. Now you can add definition to this. You could go over it with a fine liner and pull in some more if you want to, but then again there is absolutely no requirement to. But I will show you it on this. Yeah, that one's not quite dry, but never mind. You can just go in and it's just a wobbly line around in a sort of circle. And try not to get paint all over the nib of your pen, because it will ruin your pen. Just doing this, you've got a bit more definition to it as things go, to the petals. And you can do things like that with it. So it's up to you. I am actually going to leave it there. One, it really does need to dry, and two, I like stopping and coming back to things. So in a few days I might well come back to this and add more. I might not. It's the point of just getting comfortable and trying out ideas. You're not calling it finished, you're not looking for a finished project, you're not looking for a perfect piece. You're seeing how things interact and how different media and elements work. So have fun, and I'll see you.